Welcome back to the show. On Sunday, thousands of people will head to Washington to be a part of history at the official dedication of the Martin Luther King Jr. Monument. One of those who stood proudly at Dr. King's side during the civil rights movement was actor and activist Harry Belafonte. You were very close with Dr. King, and Martin Luther King and you had a relationship that was very different than most, that I know from having spoken to people very close to him, including Mrs. King. You told a story about how a police officer, law enforcement officer, were guarding your room one night and listened to you and Dr. King, and the guy was not too congenial, at least in appearances, but that something transformed this guy. Tell that story if you don't mind. People need to read the book, but tell that story.
Well, the location was the University of Maryland, and we'd taken over the university and the campus. We negotiated to be there to give an appearance for Dr. King, and the field house was just mobbed with students. And when I arrived, there was a police officer, a state trooper, standing there looking severe. I saw the seething in his face, and I just registered that fact and made sure that I stayed abreast of all that was going on so that he would not be provoked into anything. And each time I passed to go back to the dressing room where he was guarding, I had to take a look at him, and that sternness prevailed. And at the end of the evening, when everything was over, he was gone. I got back to the field house on the campus, got to the desk to get the key to my room, and the lady told me there was a packet, a letter for me. When she gave me the letter, I felt it was rather weighty, and I shook it, and it had something in it. I opened it, and when I opened it, I took out a letter. And accompanying the letter were 6 bullets from his revolver. And this thing said, "There, Mr. Belafonte, when you and Dr. King walked into this place, my life had been set on the sights of making sure that your voice not be heard beyond that which we were anointed to do in defending this country. I've heard you speak, and more importantly, I've heard what Dr. King has had to say, and I know that these bullets will never find itself taking a human life. From this moment on, I'm on another path, and I thank you both for this revelation."
Wow.
And the officer signed. Hangs in my home. I got it as an important piece of memorabilia. But that was a very profound and impactful thing that happened to us.
I remember visiting your home where you had actual letters from Gandhi and letters from Dr. King. Dr. King used to actually come to your home when he was in New York and stayed there. Tell us, the world is memorializing him this weekend with a monument, but you knew Dr. King. Tell us who Dr. King was to you, the kind of person and character he was.
Dr. King was what I dearly hoped all America would know him to be. I think a lot has been lost to us by those who, not that divine intervention is not the miracle of all things, but to be totally dependent on divine intervention sometimes can lead you askew. And everybody says, "Where's the next Dr. King?" And I hasten to answer that question by saying, where was the first Dr. King before you met him? He was silent. He was somewhere off into the rural parts of Black America, in the most humble of an environment, with a tiny church, a wife who was pregnant, and they came to him and said, "We'd like you to be part of our movement." And he said, "No, I don't think I can do that." And then they said, "Will you at least come to the church?" And he said, "Yes, I can come to the church and listen to what you have to say." And I'll never forget A.D. Nixon, who was the one that invited him to come to the church. "Well, I'm at least relieved to hear that you're coming to the church, because it would look kind of silly you're not being in the church since it's your church we're all the meeting." But when Dr. King saw that and heard those voices, he emerged. And what I've seen around America and all the student campuses and all the prisons I've been, all the young spirits that I've talked to, all the people in the Native American movement, etc., 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 I've found that we are resplendent with hope, with articulation, with young people who know exactly what to look for. If not in great detail, they'll shape the detail that's necessary. And you're seeing a microcosm of all of this down on Wall Street. I feel a great sense of faith and hope in what's going on, and I know it'll escalate.